The month is officially over, and that means it's time for a wrap up. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today is the November 2023 wrap up. So it's going to be all the books I read in November, plus the ratings. November was really weird. It felt like it went by really fast and really slow at the same time, and then we were traveling, and that really cut into my life a lot. Traveling is just hard on me in general. I'm not really that good of a traveler. I like seeing people and I like being social, but I think I do better when we travel in small segments, like a couple days. And this time we traveled for a long time and I was just exhausted. But yeah, we are full swing into December now. I finalized my lineup and I've started working on my December lineup. Christmas threw up in our house, so it's all happening. Yeah, so I hope you guys have had a great start to your holiday season if you're celebrating or whatever you celebrate. And let's talk about what I read in November. Before we get into it, make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and all we do on this channel is talk about books. So if you like listening to people talk about books, here I am every week doing just that for you. Let's go over my rating system just real quick. Even though these 3 books that I read in November, they all pretty much had the same rating. 5 stars means best of the best. I absolutely loved it. Will recommend, will read again, etc. 4 stars means I still really liked it, but I did have a few issues here and there. Maybe it was pace, plot, whatever. I had issues. 3 stars means I didn't like it, but it was a subjectivity issue, which means it probably just wasn't meant for me. Maybe the tropes weren't for me, maybe the characters weren't quite my cup of tea, but it doesn't mean anything is fundamentally wrong with the book. It just means that I probably wasn't the best reader for it. 2 stars means I didn't like it, and I probably won't recommend it to anybody. 1 star is worst of the worst. I didn't like it. I hated it. I wasted my time, and I probably won't ever read the author ever again. Not many books get 1 stars, okay? So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. The first book I read in November was Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. Okay, because you guys know that I pumped the brakes on this in October because it's an Indigenous horror book. And November is Indigenous Heritage Month in the United States, so I wanted to make sure I had one Indigenous book on my lineup for November, and this was it. This book did not disappoint me, okay? I just really wasn't sure what I was getting into because I felt like the description of the book was kind of lacking, but I did really like it. It felt like I read this book a month ago. It felt like I read this book eons ago. I don't know why. Like I said, November felt like it went really fast but really slow at the same time. Like when I was finalizing my notes to come film, I was like, did I read this in November? And it's like, yeah, you did. Don't you remember? So, premise. We have a young Indigenous woman, that is living on her own away from her family after a tragedy has happened to them. She's moved away. She has now started having dreams that are fading into her real life. I'll only tell you this because it's in the premise. She goes to sleep, and in her dream she has a severed crow's head in her hand, and when she wakes up that crow's head is still in her hand. She starts to get concerned because the dreams that she's having are more like nightmares, and they pertain to a certain member of her family. And so after some debating, she calls her family and asks for help. They're a little bit estranged. There is a lot of family dynamics in this book, which I absolutely love. But she decides to go home and try and work through the issue with her family and the guides of her mothers and sisters and cousins and aunties. Okay, so as far as Indigenous horror goes, this had some really nice elements, okay? It was not super gore or jump scare or anything like that. This was true mythos horror, which was really, really nice. And I think the way that Jessica Johns did it was really interesting, with the dream sequences and things like that. I really liked it. The generational trauma in this book was just so beautiful to read, because in most Indigenous books that I read, the generational trauma is in no way getting healed. Do you know what I mean? it's just there and it's just happening over and over. It's just a perpetuated cycle, right? In this book, these women, they're doing the work, and it's just so beautiful to see. It's so beautiful to see the generational trauma, and then how all of these women as a collective are saying no, no more, we're here and we're gonna fix this. And I just absolutely loved reading that. It just filled my heart with so much happiness. And like, it was hard for them to do that, and I loved reading it. I absolutely loved it. And I loved getting all their stories, just within their family, and then how their town grew up, and a lot of colonization history in this story. This is set in Canada. I'm pretty sure it's set in Alberta or like around there. So I don't know that much about the area, but I think they did a really good job with it. There was also a little bit of Two-Spirit rep in here, which I absolutely loved. I think that Jessica Johns just put something really magnificent together. And I listened to this on audiobook, and it was just great. It was just great. I really enjoyed the audiobook. I ended up giving this 5 stars. Obviously, I loved it. Like, I thought it was really well done. So then I dug into the reviews, and I do have some complaints with the reviews. So a lot of people were sitting here saying, and I don't mean like a lot. I mean like a lot of people really liked the book, but there are always like a few people who kind of complain. So a few people were saying that it wasn't horror enough. There was too many family dynamics. There was too much this and not enough that. And this is what I have to say to those people. If you wanted just a basic horror book, go read like literally anybody else. Indigenous horror is its own genre, it's its own feel, it's its own mythology, like it's its own thing. And it's very different from what I would, call traditional horror. They're not the same. So if you're wanting a traditional horror book, you need to go find you one. Indigenous horror is its own genre. It's its own subcontext. It's its own thing. And so when people also were saying, I didn't like the family dynamics, then you didn't want an Indigenous horror story. You didn't, because all Indigenous stories, period, have just bukus of culture and family dynamics and all of this. Like, this is part of the package, is getting all of these beautiful stories from Indigenous authors. And so if you didn't want the family dynamics or whatever you want to call it, then you needed to not read an Indigenous horror book. I don't know. I just that kind of set me off just like a little bit. So yeah, I really loved it. If you're looking for an Indigenous horror book, I would not compare this to Stephen Graham Jones. I would not compare Jessica Johns to Stephen Graham Jones. They are probably the flip side of the same coin, though, because the mythology here was so well done. But I would say Stephen Graham Jones is way more gore. Way more gore. And Jessica Johns is more like the mythos side. So, like I said, two sides of the same coin, but they're both very good. But no, I would not, if you like Stephen Graham Jones a lot, this is not going to be the same feel. Also, if you don't like Stephen Graham Jones because it's too gory, this might be more your speed, because I think the gore was just very subtly placed and done really well. Let's move on. The next book I read in November was Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. This was chosen for my book club. I'm so happy it got chosen. I'm so excited to talk to my book club about this book. Okay, so premise. We have 2 parents that have divorced, and they're trying to co-parent their kids, and they also own a business together. The problem is they both still really love each other. Like, it's that once in a lifetime kind of love, that soulmate love. But the reason surrounding their divorce was extremely painful, extremely traumatic, and they don't think that they could ever really move past what happened between them. But at some point, our male main character, I'm sorry, I can't remember their names now, begins to move on. And so our female main character says, I guess I need to move on too. And thus ensues the struggle of moving on or coming back together. This is a second chance romance. I think it was done really well. I hate second chance romance. I really do. But in this case, I think Kennedy Ryan just really hit the nail on the head with why these two split up and then why they should get back together. I will tell you the trauma in this book, the triggers in this book. It's a very heavy book. I would highly, highly, highly recommend you look into the trigger warnings for this book. This is definitely going on hard topic trauma books list for me because it was just so heavy. There were just moments when I was just so heartbroken for both of these characters, and I had a hard time getting through some of it. Like, it was just so beautifully done, and it was just Kennedy Ryan did not hold back. She really didn't. Like, she really dumped everything into this book. The mental health representation in this book was just amazing. I loved reading it. The mental health rep was so beautifully done. We also just get so much good BIPOC rep here. Oh, it's so good. There's also a lot of like community or like found family or what you would say like tribe vibes in this book that were just so well done. Everything was just so well done. And there was a lot of really good conversations about like microaggressions and micro triggers and things like that that I think just sang. It was interesting to read because these two people have their two children in a predominantly white school setting, and so there was a lot of struggle there to be seen and be heard and to be taken seriously, I think. And they do get into that a little bit, which I thought was really nice to see. Also, there were some really good sexy scenes in this book. They were good. The chemistry on the page was phenomenal. I felt like I could feel everything on the page between these two, okay? It was just so well done. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And I know you're thinking, like, Alex, you just talked it up. How did you not give it 5 stars? So I'll tell you, it was long. Ooh, it did not need to be that long. I felt like there were moments when we were just circling the point so much. And I was like, can we? Can we? Because it's a little long. It's a little long. I think the length was an issue, and that also comes down to pace. I think the pace was a little slow in places, and then it just really kind of took off in other places. It was a little unbalanced in that sense. So, yeah, the book took me literally forever to get through. And I feel like part of that was just because, like, we were traveling and it was the holidays and whatever. But, I mean, the other part of that was it was a lot. It kind of got hard to get through at some points. And again, that's just pacing. Other than that, oh, beautiful work. Beautiful work. The last book I read in November was Let Me Go by Chelsea Cain. Y'all, I did it. I finished the series. I feel so proud of myself. This series, I've been working on this series for a long time. Like, I think I started reading this series in maybe 2015. Maybe, yeah, that sounds about right. That's a long time ago, y'all. Over the years, I have just fallen in love with these characters. I've fallen in love with Archie, who is a detective in the novel. I have fallen in love with Susan, who is a journalist in the novel. I've fallen in love with Henry and Claire, who are Archie's, like, detective partners. I even fell in love with Gretchen, who was the serial killer, the female serial killer in this series. Like, the dynamics on the page were always so well delivered. Now, this book, it says on the back that this is the epic conclusion, right, to the series. This did not feel like an epic conclusion to me. I've talked about this series a lot on my channel. It's basically, we have Gretchen Lowell, who is a beautiful serial killer. They literally call her the beauty killer because, like, nobody really suspected her. And we open the first book with her being in prison after Archie Sheridan, the detective, has caught her and put her away. And then as we dig into the book, we see, like, how much Archie and Gretchen are connected, kind of the things that happened to him because she kidnapped him for 10 days and tortured him, and sort of the devastation that's left of his life after getting through this case. And then every book after that has just built on this story of him and Gretchen, like, slowly giving us the pieces of what happened and how they ended up together and all this other stuff. And also, in the other books were solving cases. And sometimes the cases pertain to Gretchen and like Archie needs her help like solving them, like information, and sometimes they don't. But there's always an element of Archie and Gretchen together in the book, except for there was one, the night season, and I've talked about that book before on this channel and how disappointed I was in it. But yeah, this is book 6. This is supposed to be the epic conclusion, and it just did not feel like an epic conclusion. I will say the pace on this book, phenomenal. Okay, it was really, really great. We're literally talking about like a 48-hour period over like the whole book. It was 48 hours, and typically these books are not like that. It usually takes like a week or so, like it's like a week's worth of time in the book. And so this one was just like really fast paced. Everything was happening like one right after another. There was some really great side stories in this book that were kind of like reaching their pinnacle that I really loved. There was just a lot of great stuff happening, but I didn't love it. Like, it wasn't a 5-star book for me, and it didn't feel like the epic conclusion to the series. So I ended up giving it 4 stars, and one reason, like I said, the ending didn't feel like the epic ending to me. And a couple people in the review section said that she's not, like, Chelsea Cain's not finishing this series, that like she's started another series and she's kind of like tying the storyline into that. I'm treating this as the end of the series because this is the end of the Gretchen Lowell Archie Sheridan series. It was finished in like 2017. If she hasn't put out another book that's a Gretchen Lowell Archie Sheridan book by now, I don't think she's going to do it. So I'm not going to go digging into this other series to try and like piece together what happens next. A lot of people also said this in the review section that this series has gone on long enough, and at this point, if she's just going to continue building on it, then it loses its authenticity, it loses its relatability, it loses its, zip, so to say. And I do agree with that. 6 books is a lot for this series, and I think any more into it would be beating a dead horse. So I'm treating this as the end of the series. Like, I will not be continuing with Archie Sheridan and Gretchen Lowell wherever they end up in other books, unless it's an Archie Sheridan Gretchen Lowell book. Like, that's what it is. I won't be continuing, and she hasn't put out one like that, so I'm assuming that she's not going to. So yeah, the ending was a little not what I was hoping for, but you could also interpret it as an ambiguous ending, and as an ambiguous ending, I think it kind of worked. I was just expecting it to be a little more dynamic, if we're honest. The other thing about this book, Susan, who is by far one of my favorite characters, right? Out of all the books, Susan has been predominantly my favorite character. Susan made me so mad in this book. She made me so mad in this book. She just made so many questionable decisions, and first of all, it didn't really feel like her. She wasn't as unhinged usually. Like, there was always this sort of spontaneity to Susan, and she was very like ask for apologies, not for permission kind of person. But she really over pushed the envelope here with that theme, and it just didn't feel like it fit with the character, and also like it just made me really mad at her, honestly. And I didn't like being mad at Susan. So yeah, it got 4 stars. I still really liked it. I mean, again, Gretchen and Archie on the page were just always so good. It's always so good in these books. And the pace was really great. I was just flying through it. But yeah, I did have some disappointments, and Susan and the ending were 2 of them. So I couldn't give it the 5 stars. If you like serial killer thrillers and you're looking for something a little different, because this does feature a female serial killer, which are kind of, a little bit more rare in the literary world, then you'll probably really like this. Lots of mind games, lots of crime, drama, just lots of great stuff. Lots of great stuff. I really enjoyed the series. There was only one book out of the series that I didn't like, and I think that was book 3 or 4. I think it was 4. But like I said, this is goodbye for me. This is the last of Archie Sheridan and Gretchen Lowell for me, and I will always hold a special place in my heart for this series because I really do like it, and I've loved the journey It was so much fun. And now I have to find something new to read. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys today. That's everything that I read in November. And now we're moving on to December, the last month of the year. I can't believe it. I can't believe that the year is coming to a close. This year has been so much. This year has been so much. Every year in January, I tell myself, I just want, I don't know, I just want a subtle, normal year. And every year since about 2019 has just not been that. It's never been subtle or gentle or normal or soft. So yeah, let's not get into it because I'll get really sad. So, yeah, this is the last month of 2023. I hope you guys are having a great month. I hope that you're gonna have a good holiday. I hope that you stick around for my December content. It's not gonna be holiday themed. I don't really love the holidays. Like, it's not in me to love the holidays. I'm trying. I'm trying very hard this year to love the holidays, and let me tell you, it's been a struggle already. Make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you'll stick around for the December content, and then stick around even longer for the January content, which I am excited about that as well. I hope you found something interesting to read today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.